Jesse. All right, welcome everybody to the December 15th, 2021 Caroline Town Board meeting. We're holding it by Zoom audio conference, video conference tonight. And so welcome. And I am gonna go right into the first order of business, the public hearing, and then after that, if there's anyone that wishes to address the board, I will hold privilege of the floor before the regular business meeting. So with no further ado, I will open the public hearing on the local law to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites. So if there's anyone that would like to speak to this issue, please raise your hand and we'll open the floor. I'm going to give it just a second. And I see that the 0644 number says it's connecting to audio still. So again, if there's anyone that wishes to speak on the proposed local law to opt out of allowing cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption sites, the public hearing is now open for that. Please let me know by raising your hand.
You mean their blue Zoom hand, Mark?
What's that?
You mean their blue Zoom hand?
Yeah, blue Zoom hand.
It's the first time you haven't said that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't find it.
So yeah, blue Zoom hand, or if you have your video on, you could just raise your fleshy palm hand.
Or speak up.
Or speak up, yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
I hear
Hey, hold
somebody.
on. I can't get back to this.
Yes. Go ahead. Is that?
Yeah, can you hear me now? I was all screwed up trying to get in. This is Bruce.
Hi, Bruce. I hear you.
Right. Yeah, no, I was just wondering, is tonight the public hearing for that?
Tonight is the public hearing right now.
Okay, and when does this get voted on it tonight?
We could vote on it. My intention is not to vote on it tonight, but we could vote on it tonight if the board feels that that's a wise thing to do. We have one more meeting this month, an end of year meeting, business meeting, and that's sort of when I expect to vote on it. But
Okay, I was just wondering. I just wasn't sure.
okay,
I just thought, and you'll only have one public hearing, and that's tonight.
that's correct. That's correct. I mean, we would probably, if we do go to another meeting, I would probably take public comment then as well. Do
Okay.
you wish to speak to the issue about the law?
Nope, I was just wondering
Okay.
how it was gonna go forward and what was gonna happen. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Well, I guess I will now formally close the public hearing on this local law that we've put forward. And I will just remind everybody, I think I am okay in speaking for the intent of the board in saying that the reason that we are considering this opt-out is just really to keep our options open while the regulatory details are being worked out so that we can have potential to understand it better. But we will be having a discussion during the board meeting about this. So, okay. So now that the public hearing is closed, I will open the business meeting and ask if anybody wishes to speak at privilege of the floor. And you do that the same way, either by blue Zoom hand or fleshy hand waving on the screen. And I'm not seeing anything or hearing anybody speaking up. Okay. All right. So without further ado, I will say that I do have one item to add to the agenda, and that is I will offer a resolution to engage on a contractual basis a acting support for the code office, an acting code officer for special projects to help us now that we have a deficiency there in that office. So I'll add that to the agenda later on. And I will move on to my report, which I think I have somewhere here. I thought I did. So I just very briefly, I'm still awaiting word on scheduling of our LED streetlight installation. So I haven't heard back, and I'll be trying to contact my contact tomorrow and Friday to get a better idea of that. Have been working on revisions to the contract, to the collective bargaining agreement with Dwayne Wright and Angelo Castellano to get that in place. And I had hoped tonight to have you just the tentative agreement. I don't have it. There's no big deal. I think it's just that Angelo's been held up, and so I will have that to you soon. And for your consideration, and I'd like to vote on that as soon as we can. And as I mentioned, so have been working on getting additional code office support, and so that's been successful. I've been meeting with other supervisors, planners, and NYSEG personnel about the easement agreement for the recreational trail. And also, you remember Lisa Marshall helped us with the clean heating and cooling campaign for Caroline, and we successfully completed that, put in the paperwork to NYSERDA, and so I believe that qualifies us for a $5,000 grant. So I am exploring options, actually one particular option for use of that. So I hope to have more details soon, but I think, yeah, I'm trying to get more details on the use of those funds, whether it's totally discretionary by us, the town board, or whether we have to meet certain thresholds for energy savings or something like that. So from NYSERDA. So, but what Lisa's told me so far is that it's fairly unrestricted. So I'll find out. That's my brief report. Do you guys have any questions? Nope. Okay. Great. Thank you. And I guess Jesse, do you have a report from the town clerk's office?
Yes, I will report that, well, Mark got a check from the clerk's office on December 6th in the amount of $531.28. And more importantly, the tax bills have been delivered to the mailbox and are set to be metered and mailed on Wednesday, December 29th. Everyone can't wait, right?
Yeah, you know how to ring in the new year.
That's all for me.
Well, Jesse, you actually had someone coming in today looking for that, right?
That's right. They can't wait either.
Great, thank you. Highway Superintendent's report. So Bobby can't be here tonight. He did send his written report. And so he wrote repairing washouts from recent flooding weather and snow and ice maintenance work, brush work, tree removal. For equipment, they're waiting on delivery of the 6,500 lightweight plow truck, and that's estimated in January. I'll review his year-end material update. Materials, these are materials hauled by the Highway Department. Approximately 3,700 tons of asphalt, 2.66 miles of paved roads, 2,400 tons of sand. That would be for the 21-22 winter season. 7,600 tons of gravel for gravel road shoulders and culvert pipe installs, and 904 tons of wash stone for highway resurfacing. For the financials, for the CHIPS, winter recovery, Pave New York reimbursements, he submitted the numbers, 38,000 for Pave New York, 241,000 for CHIPS, and 18,500 for EWR, totaling nearly $300,000. So that's expected to come today. So I haven't seen it yet, but it must be coming. And then miscellaneous seasonal roads. Speed Hill is a problem. He mentioned to me the Google map issue that we've talked about before, maybe addressing that somehow. And maybe you guys can remind me exactly. I know we discussed this in the past. And
We had reached out to Google, and I have to go through my notes and my emails to see where we left it.
okay.
I thought they were working on it, but it's been a long enough time that I don't recall off the top of my head, but I'll look at that.
Okay, wonderful. That'd be
And
great.
there's just so many of these, electronic mapping things. They've put out some of those yellow, orange cones there that, you can still weave down through, but it sends a little stronger message that you might want to think twice about going up through or down through here. So, I've
Yes,
talked to a
okay.
couple people, they wondered, do we need bigger signs? But I don't know, our experience with Bald Hill was, people just, they'll do what they'll, and, I've talked to one person that was in the ditch down there, and they're not from the area, and that's where Google's sending them, and they don't know where else to go, so.
But what do they think when they see the orange barrels and all the signs?
Well, this was pre that, so,
Oh, okay.
I think the orange barrels will help,
Okay,
I would think,
I would think so too.
so.
We could
Good.
put our own sign. Did Google send you here? If so, keep going.
Nope.
Make a left on Level Green or whatever, or Buffalo or whatever.
Yeah,
As someone who once, many, many years ago, drove down the seasonal road of Bessemer Hill before it was a road
yeah.
in about 2 feet of snow, I can attest my empathy and sympathy for these people.
Yeah.
I like your idea, Catherine, of calling out Google on a sign. That's, just to warn people, just to, kind of like a slap in the face. No, this is not a good route, even if Google told you so.
Yeah, something like that, just our own little thing. In addition to Bob's highway report, there's just some concern right now with the Old Town Hall's roof and electric system. Just, it's leaking water down on the bench, and the guys are trying to work on, when they are trying to work on stuff at their bench, and the bench is wet, and even Labella's report from 5 years ago suggested that we'd be looking at, and yeah, if we're gonna get to building a new one, I don't know, just how to. I don't feel it's safe the way it is right now and what we should do. If, you know, try to get those leaks addressed a little bit in the spring. Get some, you know, not some major fix-ups, but just something to get us through for a little while. And maybe some new outlets on the bench with, to make sure they're on good GFI breakers. I just don't want somebody getting hurt. So I think we ought to look, you know, through the winter, just somebody that could do a patch up on the roof so it's not leaking down inside.
I
Oh.
certainly agree with that.
So,
I think, you know, if there's something dangerous, then it should be addressed right now. So,
yeah. So I'll work with Bob on that. Starting, you know, first of the year.
okay. Great. All right. Any other questions about the Highway Department report? No. Okay, I'll move on. So county representatives report. Dan.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Dan.
So let's see, obviously there's a lot going on with COVID and it's keeping a lot of people at the county very busy. I don't know anything you don't know, so I don't have any like inside information to give you. I will just mention this, that the county had a clinic for booster shots last weekend at the mall. Because Tompkins County residents by and large are so eager to get their vaccinations and their boosters, it's been very hard to get an appointment in Tompkins County to get a booster. There are appointments available in the surrounding areas like Watkins Glen, Cortland, Horseheads. If you're willing to go that far, you can get an appointment pretty quickly. But because none were available in Tompkins County, pretty much for the whole month of December, Health Department decided to have a clinic. They gave 1,100 shots in one day. The website went live for those shots, and appointments were taken within 3 hours. That just gives you a sense of how hungry people are for this. But we're hoping that cleared the logjam, and now that people that want boosters are going to be able to get them easily. You can still get them also at your local doctor if they, your medical provider if they have them, and also pharmacies are giving them out too. I wanted to mention briefly again, give you a quick update about what we're calling the Community Recovery Fund. It's got about $6.5 million in it that we are setting aside to give to community organizations that are going to do projects that have to do with recovery from COVID, but also just general strengthening of our area, maybe childcare, other big transformative type issues. And I'm on the committee that's trying to take it from a concept to reality, and it's turning out to be a lot more complicated than it might seem right on the surface, like a lot of things are. We are hiring an outside agency to administer the program, but before we can even hire someone, we need to make clear what it is we're asking for. So there's a whole bunch of unanswered questions, such as how big is these grants? What's the minimal size grant? Do we want to make it a match? Do we have a timeline? Do we want it out the door, money out the door in a certain amount of time, et cetera, et cetera. So stand by for that. Excuse me a sec. Automatic light. It's just out of my arm's reach to signal it. Also, last month I talked to you a little bit about that I'm trying to get some activity going on the issue of cell phone coverage in our county. And what I can report right now is that I'm working with the County Information Technology Services Department. And the plan, at least at this moment, is that we're going to, I guess it'll be a website where people can go and there'll be a map there. It's an interactive map. And what we're going to ask people to do is to pinpoint where they live, indicate who their cell phone provider is, and then do some kind of self-rating about what they consider their cell phone service to be. So like 1 through 5 or something like that. And that way we can start generating our own map of where reception is decent and where the holes are. And I should tell you something before that, which is what I told you last month was that the FCC had released the cell phone data for the coverage maps for all the providers. And so we were excited about that. And so we finally got the information, we generated a map from it, and it's pretty useless. It's pretty similar to the broadband maps. It basically shows the whole county is covered when we know it's not. You know, I typed in my address where I can't get cell phone reception at home, and it said it was fine. Someone else did it, it was the same thing. So that's why we have to take this other step and try to generate our own map. That is my report.
Great, thanks, Dan. I'll just mention the cell phone coverage issue will be changing in Caroline soon. We've been waiting with bated breath for more than a year now, but it's the last word from the Department of Emergency Response was January. Maybe it would go operational. That'll be an AT&T Verizon tower. So
This is the Bald Hill one, Mark?
yep.
It's great.
So
Progress.
we hope. Any other thoughts or questions for Dan?
Well, I just
Great.
wanted to say again, I mentioned this last time, but John, farewell. Good luck out there.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
And
It's been a
Also,
pleasure.
Dan, I just say we are going to have we have on our agenda tonight a discussion of how to use our ARPA funds. It's something we're still, we're trying to figure out. So always, if you have ideas or anything, let us know. So
thanks.
great. Okay, thank you, Dan. All right. So that covers the reports. Do we have any updates from liaisons or committee heads or anything like that?
The zoning commission met last night and worked assiduously on actually discussing lines and concepts for zones. So they're making quite a bit of progress, and the planner is in the process of writing out a preliminary draft of a potential law so that the zoning commission then will have something a little bit more concrete to make decisions around. So it looks things are well on track in order for them to then preliminary, more concrete ideas to the public. I guess it will be late January, early February, something like that. So progress is being made. The next meeting is going to be after the holidays. And it is going to be on January 11th at 7:15.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim or feedback to the zoning commission from the board? Great, and I will mention that the zoning commission did hold 2 events last week, and they were very, I thought, well attended. There was the webinar on the Thursday night, and then Sunday there was the meeting at the Brookendale Fire Hall. So, but
It was the week, actually the week before. So before the agenda meeting.
That's right. That's right. Great. Thanks, Tim. So with that, let's move on to our discussion and action topics. So without further ado, I'll open it up for discussion of the local law, the opt-out local law that we've put forward. So I will open it up to whoever wants to weigh in on our deliberations there.
I kind of feel like at our last meeting, I said everything and I might say about it. I'm still kind of split on the two, but it sounds like you're going to vote in January, so I won't be voting.
Oh, actually, I'm thinking of voting at the year-end meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will be voting. But
Yep.
I'm still kind of split. I can probably lean towards supporting it. I'm more for dispensaries than consumption at this point, because I think there's just a overall lower risk with dispensaries, and I don't want to necessarily thwart someone who's looking to jump on, starting a business or something like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, so not much of a change from last week.
Okay, thank you.
I'm in relatively probably almost exactly the same position. If pushed, I could even vote to implement both, not to block both, but to implement both. But given the lack of clarity around all of this, I can certainly see that it makes sense, especially for consumption, for us to wait for state guidance. And since we have a commercial moratorium on new commercial construction, that wouldn't preclude somebody from opening a dispensary in an existing property though. So. But if we did do it, I'd want to review it like really soon, not wait 6 months, but look at it, say 2 months down the road, as soon as the state clarifies the law.
Great, thanks, Tim. Cal or Catherine?
I feel we're on a good track, just, see how things end up being implemented, other municipalities' experiences that decide not to opt out.
I agree with all that. Yep.
Great, okay. I'm pretty much on board. Tim did ask me to, or I asked the other supervisors at Monday's meeting when we spoke, and most of the other towns are not opting out. In fact, I don't know of any that, I can't remember about Ulysses, but I think they did look at it seriously in Newfield because they don't have zoning, but I think they ended up not opting out. But I concur with, I think our rationale for opting out is good. And I think it's a responsible measure. I don't think I think since the regulations are being worked out anyway, and anyway, I think it makes sense to do this as a prudent measure to ensure that when we do move forward, we do it in a way that we're happy with. So,
Hey, Mark, do you have any idea of if we opt out, how soon we could opt in? In other words, not how soon we could make a decision, but once we make the decision to opt in, how soon that would become implemented? You hear what I'm trying to ask? So after we report it to the state, is there like a 2-month, a 3-month, a 1 month, a 6-month lag? Is that something we might be able to find out for next week?
I could find that out.
Here's that would be good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my suspicion. So even though the last line of the local law for opt-out says it talks about this becomes in force upon adoption and submission to the Department of State. Guy has let me know in the past when I had a panic attack about submission of local laws to the Department of State that is a ministerial act that does not affect when the local law becomes effective. So if we passed it tonight, it becomes effective tonight. And I suspect the reverse is true if we go the other way, but I'll get more details about that. So, yeah. I better write that down. Then my other question, has everyone said as much as they want to say? The other question is, it sounds like because you have those follow-up questions, people are comfortable with waiting to vote until the end of your meeting.
Yeah,
And if you recall, we actually have to vote this year. If we wait until next year, it's a non-issue.
Yep.
We're
then we're
in.
in.
So, okay, great, thank you. I think we're all on board there.
Could I go back to ask Tim on the zoning commission? I'm sorry, there was something I wanted to ask. Have you had any privilege of the floor input from people at the beginning of the zoning commission meeting on last night?
Last night, I don't think there was last night. Do you remember, Mark?
No, I don't think there was any privileges.
I think there was last night.
So I know that one person chatted about, sent a chat into the Zoom about whether there was such an opportunity. So I think she came on late after privilege of the floor had gone by. So yeah, so I was just gonna.
Okay,
I was
What
thinking, well, maybe I don't know what you think, Tim, but one thing could be that privilege of the floor is offered at the end of the meeting or something like that, or in the middle of the meeting, or.
Well, I mean, in the past, I mean, the zoning commission isn't locked into anything, and there have been a couple of occasions where people have come on late and they said that they had hoped to get there for privilege of the floor, and Gene has let them speak.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's been a big issue.
Yeah,
There haven't been that many people. I mean, the traffic for privilege of the floor for the zoning commission kind of mirrors the traffic of privilege of the floor for the town board meetings.
I just didn't know if because of the the webinar and the meeting at the fire hall, if there was just any feedback that came through last night.
Oh, well, the the zoning commission distributed a questionnaire. I guess it's a question, we'll call it a
Survey.
questionnaire, a survey. And that did receive, and it was announced at both of the public meetings, and that did receive quite a bit of response. I think the number is something like maybe 40 responses or something like that, which isn't
Wow.
huge, but apparently, I haven't looked at it, but apparently it's quite representative. So,
Okay.
and the zoning commission is really keen on continuing to drum up, to beat the bushes to get more public input and public response. Whether
Where
it's,
will those responses go, Tim? I didn't even ask about that.
they went to the zoning commission. And I think my understanding is that they're going to, once they've been able to sift through them, they're going to include them on the zoning commission website. So they'll be publicly available. I think that that's what they said, right, Mark?
I think so, yeah.
I believe so. And then they also had these boxes around the town for questions.
Right.
Those actually didn't generate
They're
very
not
much
violated,
activity.
no.
And they tried to leave them longer, but people threw them out. So I think that's over, but the boxes themselves generated no more than 2 or 3 responses. Not even every box got responses. So that was a little bit disappointing, but it might have been just too early.
That's true.
So are those boxes are done then? Because there is still a box here at the town hall.
It's not completely clear, Jesse. I mean, I
Okay.
know that apparently in some, they left boxes at a couple of local businesses and those people threw the boxes out.
Oh, I gotcha. I follow. Okay.
If ours is still available, I guess it would be, there's no reason for us not to keep it open, right?
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And the last conversation I heard from zoning commission members was to keep them up at least until the first of the year. So there's no harm in that. So it's a good idea. Great.
But once the more detailed plans are released, because there was nothing really to release at the public meetings other than broad generalizations. I'm sure that'll generate tons much more response because, you know, people will be able to look at a map and say, I live here and blah, 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 blah. So there'll be, I can't imagine there won't be a significant response.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. Shall we move on to the highway site evaluation report discussion? So if people are ready for that, yeah, okay, so let's move on to that, and I'll open it up for any feedback to LaBerge.
No, folks, I didn't receive, just to frame it as a starting place, I didn't receive emails from anybody
Yeah.
with feedback, which could mean that you don't have any, or it could be you have some you want to share tonight. Either is okay, of course. I do know that they are eager to take whatever feedback we do have and incorporate it into a revised report. My hope is that we can have that for our end of the year bill paying meeting and do whatever we need to do with it to close out phase one, and then we'll hand off that to the successor group that would look at the next steps.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
I guess I want to clarify that what we're discussing, because I didn't send you any questions because I didn't have a question or a comment about the, the movement of the draft. But in terms of discussion of our collective opinion about the sites,
That would
I have
be,
a contribution to that, but are we talking about that tonight or no?
no,
No.
that would be actually phase two, where, so basically what we're looking as a body is, do we need any clarifications from LaBerge in terms of sort of how they looked at things, questions about the report. The report is what the report is to some degree based on
Right.
their assessment. Then what the board does with that information in the next phase is up to the board at that point. Whether it says, yep, we want to go with what they're recommending as their perceived top site, or we don't want to do that. And all of that's okay, but they're providing us sort of the baseline data to make some kind of decision, if that makes sense.
It does.
So we don't have, yeah.
I mean, I don't
just-
know that right. This is not the time to talk about our opinion of their assessment.
Correct.
Right, unless you have questions about assessment methodology, or there is a methodology you're curious about and would like them to consider. That I think is certainly fair game, because it could impact their assessment. But it isn't our role.
Does it
in this-
matter what their assessment? I mean, how I guess my question should be, how important to us as a board is their conclusive assessment? If it's important, then I have some comments about it. If it's not, and we're going to have our discussion anyway, then it doesn't really matter to me at this current time what they think number one is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's a great question, and
I mean,
I have a tricky answer to it, in the sense that we're paying them for their professional expertise as engineers and architects, right? And so my hope would be, when it's time to decide on a site, that this report would guide that work, whether it ultimately agrees with whatever site one or site two is, right? But at the very minimum, what it's designed to do is give, here are the potentials and the pitfalls of each option, right? So that the board can make an informed decision based on data, right? So that's sort of the role of it. The board can choose ultimately to say, no, we don't want to do any of these things, right? Or, even though the report is saying this should probably be site one, we want to go with site three. The board always has that authority to do that, right? The report's designed to be sort of a scientific guide to make a better decision, is the intent of it, if that helps.
It does. I mean, I guess then I will say on the record that I don't think the assessment of congruence or not with the comprehensive plan is scientific in
Okay.
any way.
Okay,
Subjective, and I disagree with it.
okay. Would you be willing to just, when you have a moment, just jot me a quick note? I think I know what you mean by that, because it is taking, and I think Tim commented on last week that it, on the balance, it takes away green space that exists as green space, right? So that's sort of the general meaning I took from it, but if there's something more specific in what you're thinking, that'll be helpful.
Yeah,
If there's
think
not,
there's more than that. I think there's
Sure.
more than that in terms of disruption and
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's-
a lot of different things.
yeah. Well, so that would be helpful, because what I can do is provide that to them, and as you're formulating the second thing, or the next iteration, the second thing, honestly, here's some feedback that has come up, and
I
we'd
mean, I
like
guess
you
my
to-
question is,
Yeah.
is it their job to, I mean, I might argue that while I totally agree with you that they're architectural and engineering and siting and all the things that's what we're paying them for, I might make an argument that we're not in fact paying them to really assess or interpret our comprehensive plan, that's our job based on their mechanical and architectural assessments. Then we as a board would take that and put it into our vision
Mhm.
and mission. And, I guess
Mhm.
I don't
So,
know that I think that their assessment of that is really their job.
okay, so let me put it back to make sure I have it, because I may have the feedback. So what I hear you saying is that you would prefer that they look at all of the scientific factors that they're qualified to do.
Yeah.
And as they look at the review and ratings of the site, that they might take that measurement of alignment with comprehensive plan out of the evaluative tool. Would that be
I
fair?
would. Yeah, I would. The more I think about it, I would. I
The
don't
other
think it adds anything
Sure.
to what we're paying them for, really.
Okay. Sure. Do other folks share that sentiment?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Then I will ask them to create a version that takes that as a metric out. That's fair. Good.
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, John, in the meeting, I'm sorry I
Yeah.
didn't send you any questions just because I asked a bunch directly to
Okay.
the meeting,
Yeah.
but at the end of the report regarding funding, they mentioned ARPA funding.
Mhm.
Can you ask them to be sure to clarify that? Because I've read all of the ARPA guidelines and nowhere in there can I find support for highway garage. So it'd be really helpful for them if they have that information to clarify it for us.
Okay, so let me write it, and then let me repeat that, because I want to capture it accurately.
Yeah, just they had mentioned in the report, at the end of the
Yep.
report, the possibility of using our ARPA funding to
Right,
help
I
support
recall.
the garage.
So
And we're
basically,
just asking them to clarify,
why they think that fits the definition of allowed uses.
yes, how they
Okay.
understand that
Yep.
to be in congruence with the instructions we've been given. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I saw that too. I was surprised by it. I think they're very knowledgeable about funding, and so I would be interested in
Yeah.
hearing why they think that as well.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, so I have those two pieces. Are there any other things that folks have? Those are the two I felt like I heard last week, but
I guess I'll just mention, and I mean, the comprehensive plan issue kind of brings that up, I guess. And of course, at this point, I don't expect them to reinvent the wheel or redo their report or anything like that. It would just be my feeling, or what I would urge is in whatever ways possible for when they're considering a certain issue, that they try to do that really objectively and sort of equally rigorously for each of the 3 sites. So that, so for an example would be, not based on, just based on, so say, and I think they did do this to a degree. Because I remember them talking about the topography
Mhm.
near each site and
Right.
the areas for expansion. But I would just encourage them to try to do that in an even-handed way for each of the 3 sites. If they, to maybe look at that again and say, okay, if what for that issue, say,
Expansion,
yeah,
you mean?
for that
Okay.
issue expansion. So, or any of them, but that's the one that came to mind. What are the possibilities? Not in terms of, just in terms of spatial opportunities. What are the possibilities? So, and I will admit that I just have not had a chance to read the report as thoroughly as I've wanted to by now. That's why I didn't get you any questions. So I apologize
Yeah.
for that.
Okay. Yeah, I would say just I'll gladly ask them that, and I'll say as you have an opportunity in advance of, our end of the year meeting, take a look at that, because I think they did address a lot of that question, but
Okay.
if they didn't address it in a way that felt either meaningful or, made sense, that's fair, right? So just, as you have a chance.
Well, and it actually came to mind on the issue of the comprehensive plan. So
Mhm.
that is quite a, there are many dimensions to that.
Mhm,
And
absolutely.
so if you were going to do that, and so for instance, let's take that issue. So if you had one site where you could, purchase parkland, could you do that with other sites? So it should be, anything they consider should be done equally for the 3 sites, I think. So, or at least considered. I don't.
Not sure I followed that last bit where you were going with that. I want to make
I
sure.
think
And
I hear that. Let me see if I can ask it a different way, John. 'cause
Okay, yeah, that would be helpful, because I want to capture it accurately.
I mean, did they consider, in the report, I don't remember them, except for on one of the possibilities, them considering the options of expanding existing town sites with additional land to make
Oh,
them
okay,
more or less preferable, for example. I think
gotcha.
that's what you're talking about, Mark. Is that what you mean?
That's an
More or
example.
less? Yeah,
That's not
an
the one I
example.
had in mind right now, but yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think if the
So,
comprehensive plan assessment is out, then maybe all the stuff just would not be.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yep. John, I had one other question that.
yeah,
I mean,
hang
I
on, let me
don't
just
know.
capture one
Sorry,
thought, Tim.
sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay, got it. Yes.
This isn't something to relay to them necessarily to revise the report, but you probably know the answer to this since you were involved in this from the
We'll
beginning.
find out.
I was kind of surprised that they didn't do any soil sampling, and that they said in terms of at least one of the sites, maybe a couple, it would depend on what your soil sampling ended up showing. So I guess that really surprised me, because I thought we were going to get an engineering report. So did they talk about that at all? I just thought that's kind of surprising.
My understanding is that goes into that they're looking at more of the sizing and more of the mechanical facilities aspects of a site, what might be involved in putting something there. So as an example, that would be on Perkins Road, the fact that it was a gravel pit and the need to, sort of compact it so you had a stable facility that didn't sink. They looked at more of the engineering parts, but they did not get into the environmental engineering parts, which would be typically more of a phase 2 part, right? You'd say, okay, this is the site. Now we have to kind of dig in and say, all right, are there any remediations? Like if we were, let's say we raise the current facility and say we're going to use that site 1. before they could build anything, they would need to look at, do we have any contamination and things like that? And those are things, at least as I understand it, and by no means is this my expertise, that there would be some, significant level of testing to sort of understand that. And that would be more than you would typically do in this phase of things.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, it's a great question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
And the way things would go, we wouldn't be permitted on Site 3 land unless we owned it.
That's true too, probably. Yeah.
That's true for any of the sites.
Well, we could do test, well, yeah.
I guess we could test sites we already own, but
Yeah.
it would be a little dicey to go around town and conduct sample tests. It's a good point, Cal, but it's also a good question, Tim. All right, so I've captured thus far 3 key elements that we want them to take sort of congruency with the comprehensive plan out of the evaluation matrix. That we want to clarify their take on ARPA funding and why they think it can be applied to this type of project. And that we're curious about, did they see any potential, or do they see any potential if we were to take 2 of the sites owned by towns? This is how I can boil it down to the easiest thing that I think I can communicate effectively. So Perkins Road and the current site. And if we were to do, let's say, a wraparound acquisition, would that change the dynamic of those sites potentially being feasible in ways they wouldn't be if we just looked at them with what we currently have?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I may
I-
have not said that as succinctly as Tim did, but
yeah.
it's more succinct in my notes.
I sort of, yeah, I don't know. And I do think, we have what they gave us. So in relation to kind of what Catherine was saying early on, we can take what they gave us and work with it. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. This is a tool. At the end, it's a tool to help make a more informed decision, like any study, right? And so you can make modifications to it as you get into the next phase, and that's the point. So
Yeah, so we wouldn't want them to make major modifications
No.
at this stage at all.
but I think these are good questions and clarifications, and we'll get a better product if we ask them now and have them address them. So I will put these together into an email to Phil and try and get that out tonight.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Is that a wrap for this discussion? Everybody got everything off their chest?
Is that a pun?
Not intentionally, I guess, so. Great, okay, thanks, John. Coming to completion here, great. Okay, so I'll open.
And John and Cal, if we don't get a chance, if we don't remember to do this at our last meeting, just thanks on behalf of all of us for all the work you put into this.
Our pleasure. It's an important
We were
project.
happy not to have to do it.
Fair. Well, it's not like you're not like significantly pulling your weight with the comprehensive plan and zoning consideration. So, thank you for that, Tim. I appreciate it.
Great. Super, okay, great. Thanks, John. So now let's discuss what's already come up a couple times today, the ARPA funding. And so I'll open that up. I will say that I pulled a phone conversation, a voicemail from Lee Hafley late this afternoon, asking me if I wanted to discuss use of ARPA funds for broadband. So that's something tangible I can offer for the conversation. Other than that, I don't know anything more than I did last time. The capital projects that I know of that are targeted are water, sewer, and broadband. So, and we are extremely limited in how we can deploy our broadband funds because we don't take sales tax, but I will try to get more information, because I think I need to bear down on this and see if there's more I should know. So,
You know, from the outset, one of the things that I was encouraging us to think about were ways that we could use potentially even a little bit of this for social support of some sort or another. And I guess I'd still like to somehow keep that afloat. I mean, easy things would be more support of the food pantry or something like that, or even youth services potentially, which reaches, a broad and needy population. We talked about the possibility of maybe some kind of rental assistance. I mean, it's really kind of interesting because on Monday, the county sent me and Mark the county survey of housing and housing starts. And it turns out, Mark, what was the figure? Is it something like 39% of
it's high.
housing, or is it
Yeah.
higher? Is
I
rental?
can't remember the number. It's high. Yeah.
It's very
Right.
high, surprisingly high.
Yeah.
But I mean, the question would be, if we did that, how you would administer it, and blah, blah, blah. And it could be very expensive to do. But
Exactly.
I guess I'd still just like to, because even at a county level, on the TCOG level, I just feel like so much attention is paid to the more easily comprehensible nuts and bolts issues, broadband, roads, et cetera, that targeted initiatives for social support don't tend to happen easily. Partially because they're so complicated also to do. But I mean, I don't know what that would mean. And even if we peeled off $30,000 or $40,000 or something like that, whether it would make any difference. But it's just something just to think about.
I haven't seen any, capacity to do that. I know that the county is going to hire someone to do administration of their community funds. So anyway, I can certainly, I'll keep my eyes out and ears, but
I mean, it might be that the county project that Dan just talked about would more robustly address that than any way we could.
mhm.
But just
I'd come down on that side, that the county could administer it a lot better. And in some ways, I feel that social support is just getting, whatever we can do to get some broadband out for people, that got kids at home, or just for their own use. Because I think it's a real challenge for
Everybody.
school. Yeah.
That's
no,
the one.
and I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah.
I like the heart of what Tim just said a lot, right? And I've advocated in different budget cycles to do more for the food pantry. I think we know that food insecurity is a pretty real and prevalent thing in communities, and I'm sure Caroline is no exception. So that does interest me. And I think, one of the things that I ran on, 8 years ago or more, was broadband, right? That was a big deal to me then, and the pandemic has shown that it remains. And I'm proud of the progress we've made, but we're not over that last mile. But I think even if we were able to do 95% to broadband and 5%, this is just an example number to what Tim's talking about, for something like the food pantry, that would still be pretty tangible, right, in terms of scope. And so, or if it were 90-10 or 85-15, whatever might be decided, I think it's achievable to do both. I would like to see a large chunk of it go to broadband to see if we could get over that last hump and get it to everybody. I think we can do both.
I just say I'm not sure because so far I haven't seen how, how we could do that. So I'm just talking mechanically
With ARPA, you mean?
with ARPA. Yeah.
So fair enough. So if we find that we can't, then one of the things that might be a sort of a pass through is that money we might have allocated to try and get over the last hump of broadband, suddenly we don't have to. So maybe we decide, well, there's a community interest in, doing some of the things that Tim suggested, and now there's freedom of budgetary money that we would have allocated somewhere else to consider doing that. It might not be direct, but it might be a pass through.
Yeah. I'm just not sure about that.
I mean, one example, and just thinking about this, just, hypothetically, an alternative to broadband is more accessibility to wired computing for residents who don't have broadband. So I could imagine jacking up the library facilities, computer facilities, adding more stations, doing something similar in the community centers in Speedsville and Brooktondale, something like that. These are just wild things, but it would be totally consistent with pushing out broadband,
Mm-hmm.
but it might have a little bit more of an immediate effect.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I mean, we know how many people have come and parked in the parking lot to use broadband. Maybe we could think of a way for them not to have to park in the parking lot. Or maybe expanding library hours for that purpose in certain times of the day, so kids could come and do their homework or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? So, well, I'll find out what Lee has to say and get back to you on that. So, great. Okay. Thanks, everybody. All right. And now for the discussion of the Downey Road, seasonal road discontinuation request. So I will just start off by saying, well, yeah, so I sent some information today and I know you may not have had time to digest it all. So a lot of what Guy told us is information that I sent before. He really just reiterated that. So my understanding is building permits cannot be issued for areas that are seasonal roads. So any building that's there, that's, we need clarification on just what's there and how it came to be there. And I think that's one issue.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Mark, what it sounds like you're saying is that if there's a structure there, it really initially is a code issue.
That's right, I think. I'm just
Mhm.
thinking about what, if you saw, the county IT people sent me some information, and I'm thinking about it now, and I think there's a contradiction there
Yes.
from what Guy sent us. So, and she said, structures on seasonal roads should have an address, but Guy's saying that's something you shouldn't, that shouldn't occur. So I'm back to being a little perplexed by all of that and wondering, I know that people get minimum maintenance and seasonal confused. So I think
And that section of Downey is both,
it's both minimum maintenance and seasonal. Okay.
right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So minimum maintenance during the season that it has maintenance, and seasonal in terms of no maintenance during November.
November to April. Yeah.
Right. Is it helpful if I outline some questions that I had after reading your documents, Mark?
Absolutely, Catherine,
Yeah.
go for it, please.
So, the law, the 280A, does help to clarify why typically it's impossible to build on a seasonal or minimum maintenance road, and why, the initial discussion of this I had brought up, because I've had experience with this. Typically, when you're looking for land to build, you don't purchase on an unmaintained road because you can't get a building permit, right? And
Right.
you know that you can't get a building permit. In the case of Downey Road right now, we don't have a request for a building permit. Whether or not we have an issue of home improvements without a permit is a whole separate issue. I'm not honestly interested in really getting involved in that. I mean, I think that
Right.
people should be able to do their own construction and improvements on their seasonal properties without really being bothered. But if the conversation is turning there, it's just becoming a layer, it's like an onion with this thing. Because the original request that was presented was about an address. But obviously it's just, it's like opening up. And so the questions that I wrote down following the documents that you sent are, can an address be provided for an unpermitted building? Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the law, as I read it, and all of the decisions about individual law involves a permit, whether something can be permitted and what happens with new construction, and that's not really the case. And so the address question from the folks at the county that I agree was confusing, I wondered if there was a miss with whether we're talking about a permitted structure rather. So can an address be issued?
I see. Yeah, I agree.
For an unpermitted building. And it
Right.
sounds like from the law 205 that you could build a residence on a seasonal road, and then the road's designation would need to be changed, which I think is what Bob was really concerned about, but you can't get a permit. So it seems like a bit of a chicken egg thing of,
Yeah.
And then again, with this particular issue, none of this is what's in question right now, because the request was for, we're not talking about permit. And I just wonder whether the landowner, I don't know how expansive we really want to get with this.
Well, I mean, I guess I just think, yeah, I think these questions are good. I think we need to, it's kind of like squeezing water out of a rock, it feels like, but we need to get to the bottom of it. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like there should be an answer this way or that, this trajectory, whatever. So,
but in terms of designation of the road, though, that's also that's the discretion of the highway superintendent, who's already said, he's outlined very clearly what would be required, and that's not something that he recommends the town engage with. I won't speak for him, that was his report, but I personally would say I also do not support changing. It's not a matter of plowing the road. It's like the entire road would need to be reconstructed in order to plow it.
Right. I guess all I'm saying is, I mean, what Guy is telling us is that if there is a, how do you term it? It's a, if there's a residence, it's an occupied residence, then the seasonal designation automatically lifts up to that driveway. So I concur with the concerns of, and, you know, so yeah, but if that's true, then things are greatly simplified. But except that we don't, at least I don't, I think you've probably seen the place and have a better knowledge of the history of it, but I think we need to know more about the particulars. I think Jesse wanted to say something. Go ahead, Jesse.
I just wanted to say that it might be helpful to try to find a file for the property on Ecros Road. About 10 years ago, there was classification changed because of a house that was built there. We should maybe first thing just try to find if there was a building permit for it, and that's easy enough to see, and maybe that has more information in there. So that's all.
And Jesse, did you do a dive on the Downey Road property on building permits or not?
No,
Did
I
you-
have not yet.
Okay.
There is nothing in Downey Road files for any vacant lots. So
Okay.
my guess is no.
Okay. Interesting. I still think this question of whatever occupied dwelling or whatever, I mean, it seems like there needs to be a threshold somewhere. It's like, you know, some kid could have a tree fort somewhere that they, you know, go to once in a while. So I just, it seems like there, you know, I kind of tried to ask Guy that question. I didn't really get enough detail. So.
But so much
Well-
of this seems to come down to code.
Right.
So, I mean, so what if some structure is occupied?
Right.
If it's not up to code, it shouldn't be occupied.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Simple.
There's got to be through code a legal definition of what constitutes an occupied dwelling. So that, you know, and undoubtedly the tree fort example, which is actually a great example, wouldn't meet that, right? And so if there's a dwelling that somebody's occupying, but they shouldn't be, that's a code issue.
Yeah.
If they want to build on an area that's not maintained, they need a permit. And
Yeah.
that's a code issue. And we can choose to say, we're not granting permits
Yeah.
to build on undeveloped roads or roads that the town doesn't have a desire to build out, at least at this time.
So I think
Right.
also just to,
Yeah.
like, the request was, I mean, I'm just gonna back up to like what the request was, which is like none of this. So maybe it's just easiest, I mean, and the landowner's not here, I'm just trying to think of everyone's, you know, interests and look out for all of them really, which is, would it be helpful to just backpedal a bit? I mean, certainly they can watch this recording and see that this has become complicated and then decide if they want to continue to pursue this. That's up to them, but they might just decide, oh, this is complicated. This is not just a matter of asking for an address.
Yeah.
We're done with this now. So I don't know if just Mark, I don't know if this comes to you reaching back out to Nate to say, you know, as Tim implied, you know, or stated, like, this is more complicated.
Yeah.
Like, my primary concern is that there was an assurance that this was easy and it's not.
Yeah.
And so that might just stop the whole thing. I don't know. But before we get into a whole,
weeds.
you know, like, this is just really complicated and
No. I'll do that. I think I should do that since I have some culpability here. So.
Yeah, but even in terms of having an address at a piece of property on a rural road, supposing you just owned a piece of property and you're out there cutting some firewood and you fall and hurt yourself and you take your cell phone and say, hey, I'm hurt and I'm at, you know, it would certainly help emergency response to have, you know, a little more idea where they're going rather than road ABC.
But you can't, so even from what the county wrote today, that's, you know, they're looking for a dwelling, an occupied structure.
So like, just to, as as a question, you know, and aside from the road designation, if Mr. Myrick was to ask for an address for his parking lot next to the substation, he couldn't get one?
I would talk to a code officer, but not my understanding. I don't think so. From what from what our brief look at
Right.
things.
That's also on a regular maintained road, though.
Yeah, but just the idea of having an address, you know, with, at a location, whether or not, even if there's no dwelling there, can you have an, could you have an address for a parking lot?
Or could you,
I
well,
don't know. It's interesting. I mean, you'd have, like, I'm just remembering, I mean, I owned my land for like a decade before I built on it. There was never an address, but until there was a house, but I never asked for one. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, why would someone ask for one? If you wanted to get mail, you could get a PO box.
Yeah.
that was, I did include that in my original question to Greg Potter. And he didn't say that you could get an address for a lot of land, so.
It's a good question though, Cal. I don't really answer.
Yeah.
I don't really answer.
Yeah, but just, you know, as long as the issue's up, you know, maybe we could just get the answers to kind of the general sense of things.
It's an interesting thing because even so, as you might have noticed, so Catty Ann replied after Greg did. And you know, these seem like, I think to us, like these are bread and butter questions, right? These are fundamental questions, but she said this should be a good topic for TCOG to, so. I think it will be. So. Okay, I think that's really good, Catherine. I'll reach out to Nate and let him know that my head's spinning and it is more complicated than I told him,
Yeah.
and yeah, go from there.
Well, and even going forward, I mean, we've got, you know, enough seasonal and minimum maintenance roads in the town that we're going, you know, over the next 5-10 years, we're probably going to have to deal with as people spread out into the area, or as they spread out, as they already are, and they keep pushing the boundaries. You know, there's the far end of Level Green Road, there's Speed Hill Road, there's, you know, it's something that we're gonna, so this might just be a little bit of a mustard seed that'll get us.
Yeah, but I guess without this particular case, which is complicated because there's something there and we don't know how it got there and what, you know, if it meets building code or whatever, but without that, it's the town's decision, right? To designate roads as seasonal, and until they're not seasonal, you can't issue a building permit, so.
Yeah.
So that's a really, for me, an important clarification, so. Okay.
Yeah,
great,
but then
thank
there's also precedent of what we've done in the, you know, there was the people that bought the Liddington property up there on Bald Hill Road 4 or 5 years ago. And, you know, as I remember it, we tried to work with them.
we didn't do anything for them. We said,
We didn't, because they haven't done anything, and maybe they've just changed their mind and gone away, but.
well, we gave them the same information as in that email that I shared with you, that so they own that property, and Guy told them the same thing, that, you know, that it would be a minimum maintenance road up to the driveway
Mhm.
if they built.
I thought I remembered something about a snowplow turnaround, or.
There was something about negotiating that, so.
They offered land for that
Yeah,
discussion.
Much the same as we're seeing here too. Gnarly, okay. Okay, thank you. And any further thoughts, I think that gives us a place to go for right now, so thanks so much. All right, turning now, I'm going to offer a resolution And I will offer a resolution to set the 2022 employee wages to increase by 4%. That's it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, John, second. And any further discussion? This is, I think, not a surprise to anybody. And so I'll be letting Velvet know what the increases are for each line. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote.
I first hereby suggest for the rest of the meeting that we let John have all.
Now you know I'm an equitable person, Tim, so we can more than share the wealth.
And it's a great idea, Tim.
It's like when someone leaves our improv troupe, the last show, they're in every single game, whether they want to be or not.
Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. Now I'll offer a resolution to, for the 2022 employee health insurance terms. And so just the Caroline Town Board hereby provides that employees or officials qualifying for the town's health insurance shall be responsible for 16% of the premium. Employees and officials currently covered by the town's health insurance may continue in 2022 with the gold plan with an HRA account funded at 100% of the out-of-pocket maximum. They may also switch to an HSA funded at 100% of the out-of-pocket maximum for the first 2 years of that. This is a one-time switch. Pin that in. And thereafter, it would be 50%. They would be provided 50% of the out-of-pocket maximum annually for their health savings account, which, just to reiterate, a health savings account is an employee asset. An HRA fund is a town asset used to offset medical expenses. So this gives them a piggy bank to build for future medical expenses. So this is a one-time irreversible option that must be made at the start of the year. New employees and officials may elect the town's apostrophe there. Health insurance gold plan with an HSA funded at 100% in the first year, then 50% of the out-of-pocket maximum annually thereafter. Do I have a second, John?
Yeah, you have a second.
You? Discussion? Did that make sense?
I think this is a great direction. I know it's one we had a lot of conversation about during budget a few years ago. But I think, so I just thank you. I think it's a really good choice. And I think long-term our employers are going to be really happy that they can build that up if they are able to.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, I agree.
I also appreciate providing the option for current employees.
Yep.
Great, thanks, Tim. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts before I call for a vote? If none other, I'll call for a vote. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. The next resolution I will offer for John's second is to appoint a temporary code officer.
I will second that then.
Right, John, thank you, John. So
We need code in our town for sure.
that's right, that's right. Whereas the town of Danby has agreed to provide the services of their code enforcement officer, Steve Courtwright, for temporary building code enforcement in Caroline, compensated for hours worked and mileage. Therefore, be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby appoints Steve Courtwright as the town's acting code enforcement officer. So if there's, I don't think there's, Steve is already ably helping us. He was in today. And so Tim?
Yeah, Mark, in the occasion where there hypothetically to be a conflict of interest and we would need to engage an additional code officer for particular projects, do we need a resolution for that tonight as well?
That'll be the next resolution that I'm
Okay.
inserting.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Great. Yep, you're welcome. Any other thoughts before I call for a vote?
Is
Great.
there, where would there be a conflict of interest for Steve?
I don't really want to talk about it right now, but
There could be.
there
Okay.
could be, right?
Okay.
And frankly, the other issue is it's not going to hurt to have a second code enforcement officer helping us because
Back up.
Steve has his hands really, really full. So
Okay.
um, good questions. Okay, without further ado, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. All right, and so now I'm going to offer a resolution. The following resolution authorizing the supervisor to issue a letter of approval to appoint Brian Butner as the town's acting code enforcement officer for special projects on a contractual basis at $45 an hour. And so I will just offer that as the text of the resolution. Do I have a second on that? John, thank you. I want to, let's see, so I did get a call from Brian, a voicemail, unfortunately, so, but he did, I spoke to him yesterday. He was recommended by Kevin McMahon, and both Guy and Steve know him. So I feel good about that. And he just pointed out in his voicemail that he would like to engage with a conversation about with Steve, because to just line out lanes and duties so there's no potential for getting tangled up and having problems. So we will be doing that. And so yeah, I thought I was going to say something else about yeah, I guess that's all.
Where's Brian from?
He's an architect in Freeville.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's also a certified code enforcement officer, of course. So great. Any other questions or concerns or whatever? So, okay. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Opposed? Awesome. Thanks very much. All right, now for the really exciting part of the meeting. I will offer a resolution for the following budget transfers. $87 from A1110.4 to A1220.4. $215 from the same account to A1620.2 town hall equipment. $1,015 from A1110.4 to A1620.4 town hall contractual. $1,420 from 1110.4 to A1620.41 town hall contractual IT. $530 from A1110.4 to A1620.412 town hall contractual office. 166 from A1110.4 to A3620.4 safety inspection contractual. 10,000 from DA 5140.1 miscellaneous personnel services to DA 5110.1 general repair personnel services, and 600 or 1,000 from DA 5140.1 miscellaneous personnel services to DA 5110.11 general repair overtime personnel services, and 600 from DA 5142. Should get rid of that zero there. 5142.4 miscellaneous contractual to DA 5142.4 snow removal contractual. Do I have a
Sure.
second? Thank you.
Sure. Let's just keep going, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless
Good.
Cal wants to get in there.
No, thank you for your cooperation, John. That's good.
I'm here to help.
So any questions about that? So these are just things that tighten up at the end of the year that need to be smoothed out. All right, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I'll offer a budget, a resolution for a budget transfer to reserve accounts. Resolve the Caroline Town Board makes the following 2021 transfer to town reserves: 30,000 from A 1620.43 Town Hall Capital Reserve to A 231 Town Hall Reserve, and 38,297.38 from A 1620.44 Highway Barn Capital Reserve to A 230 Town Barn Reserve. Do I have a second? Seconded by John. And discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you. I'll offer a resolution for the payment of the town bills in the amount of A Fund, $27,250.92. DA Fund, $66,419.26. Streetlight Fund, $413.53.
Second.
Seconded by John. And any questions about that? Okay, no
For the
questions.
bills.
We paid the bills. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. Okay. And are there any, I would like to approve the minutes of the December 7th agenda meeting. Do people have any comments or feedback for Jesse?
Good job.
Yep. Very good. Thanks, Jesse.
Catherine approves and has made a new dance. I love it. It's good.
So the minutes of December 7th are hereby approved. Thank you so much. All right. So let's see here. I would now like to offer the following resolution. This resolution is entitled Appreciation to John Fraser for his service to the town. Whereas John Fraser will be stepping down as Caroline councilperson at the end of the year after serving 2 four-year terms. Therefore be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby extends its heartfelt appreciation to John for his dedicated service to the town of Caroline. Do I have a second?
I want to second that one.
Okay.
I don't think I can second that.
And I think there were a lot of hands shot up, but I think Cal got that one. So I would say now let the roasting begin.
I was hoping. Gosh.
I guess
That's
I would like to thank John most of all for 3 years ago providing me with an email address.
I do what I can, Tim. I'm here to serve.
What did you have to do to get your address?
Ask John.
That's all?
Yeah. When you stepped on, I wasn't doing that anymore. I'm sorry to say. Yeah, but I think Velvet hooked you up, didn't she?
Or was it Gary?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Tim came on BV before Velvet.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, anyway, I'll just offer that John and I started out together, and yeah, we ran together for town board. Our names were, I still have them in my barn.
Phew, I have a couple.
Yeah, and it's a great sign, great campaign, and quite an honor to run together. We went to the training school together up in
Likewise.
Albany
Yep.
at the Desmond Hotel, and yeah,
I learned a fun fact about you on that trip.
You did?
I
What?
did. That one of your favorite songs is "A View to a Kill" by Duran Duran. And I don't know why that surprised me. I actually also like that song, but I was not expecting that when you shared that.
I forgot that I'd shared that. Yeah,
Great song.
I do like that song a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Retain all sorts of bizarro facts.
yeah, that's a very good memory. So so it's been a great 8 years with you, John, and
Yes.
I thank you so much for your steady and steady work on the board, your moral compass, and I also want to point out that in addition to providing emails to folks, when I entered the board, the town board had gone through some kind of gut wrenching process to get the website up and running and renewed. And
That's right.
so we were grappling with this, and the solution ended up being that John did it over like a long weekend with Weebly and transferred everything to the Weebly that we use to this day, and we keep punching it and crafting it. And so
I forgot about that.
that's a tremendous effort, and much appreciated, John. And so
Thank you, Mark.
we will miss you on the board for sure. So
I appreciate that. And it's been quite a journey together for sure. No doubt about it.
great.
I'm not sure if I should thank you or blame you for me being on the board because you
Mhm.
me a
Probably,
message and
probably
said,
both.
I hope that you'll step into my position when I leave.
So the team more than once too.
So
Well, you know,
depending on the
Catherine,
day, it's thank or blame.
yeah, Catherine, all I can say is you should have known better, but you didn't. But I'm really glad that you said yes.
I'm really glad I said yes.
Excellent.
I mean, I'll just add, John, that
Yeah.
there really almost isn't another one of us around this table other than Mark, who has such a command of the details of the town.
Yeah.
Recent history, but also since John's been almost on every committee, really, really deep knowledge, an
Thank you, Tim.
exceptionally deep knowledge of the details of the town, not only the laws, but also just how things got done. And I can't tell you how many times that just the confidence in having John around the table, knowing that if you said to him, is this what you recall, you'd get a snap answer almost right away, and it made all the difference in the world. So I think we're going to be missing an awful lot in the short term,
Yep.
aside from all your labor
Yeah.
with your departure. So
Thank you,
thanks
Tim.
for helping us.
I appreciate that. I feel the same way about other folks here. You know, it's a team effort to get anything done, and particularly at this level.
Tim, John has pointed out that these are public meetings, and he plans to be at all of them for the
Each
full
and every
term.
one.
Yeah, that's a rather frightful thought.
You should be frightened. And that's patently untrue, but I may pop in for a few, but it's been a pleasure, you know. And there are times it hasn't been a pleasure, right? We've had our rough moments, you know, as any community does, but one of the things that has been so gratifying is the energy in this community. Wherever people stand on the political spectrum, I have rarely encountered more engaged citizens and people who love and care about a community as much as people in Caroline do. And that has made what unbelievably is an 8-year journey truly, truly special. And I'm proud of the work that our community's done to get where we are. We've made a lot of progress in 8 years. And that was a whole lot of people, some who have served in this body and many, many, many who just served by being members of our community and engaged. And to all of you, I'm very grateful.
Thank you, John.
Mark, could I say something?
Yes, is that iPhone? That's iPhone, right? That's Bruce?
Yeah.
Bruce,
Yeah.
Bruce.
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Bruce.
John, I'd just like to thank you for your time and your thoughtful service and
Thank you.
your great service to the town. You
Thank
will
you
be
so
missed.
much. I appreciate that, Bruce. That means a lot to me. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bruce. That's nicely said. Yeah. And I know you will stay engaged, John, and there are a lot of issues that will be continuing that you've been very engaged with. So that'll be great.
You will now be a consultant to the town
I'll be a
board.
consultant.
A member of the town board.
Well, I'm always happy to lend an ear, and I truly mean that. And I'm also very excited for Kate, who's going to join this body, and I know be a wonderful team member for folks, and that's exciting too. Right, that's the we were talking about this earlier, a few of us. That's the essence of a good community, when you have cycling through a body like this and people feel called to serve and contribute. And that's what's great about Caroline in particular.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
But I do see another resolution on the agenda.
Yeah, before we go there though, I did want to, I wanted to acknowledge that, you're a man of many hats, John. And so when you leave the board at the end of this month, you're going to have one less hat. So we felt like you needed a hat.
I love it. Oh my gosh. What does it say?
This, I think, is the perfect hat for you. So,
Kind of agree.
so yeah, this is a rainbow tie-dyed trucker's hat.
I love it.
And yep, it also, I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, okay. It's got an IC on it.
Aw.
I don't know how that happened, but it
That's-
has an IC logo on it. Yeah.
Love it.
So anyway, we thought this would be something that would
perfect.
serve you well. And I think the rainbow tie-dye is a really good,
I will wear it with pride.
cool.
Colorful hat for a colorful person.
Thank you.
I
Cal.
am particularly aggravated
Hmm?
that John came to his last meeting hatless.
Do I frequently have one on when we're doing this?
Yes.
I love it. I love
Perfect.
Seems like a good one for this moment, right?
Perfect.
Good one.
It does.
There we go.
That's a sweet hat. Yeah.
And someday in 100 years, when some archivist looks through these and thinks, what in the hell were they doing? This will really confuse them.
Somebody take a picture of that.
It's recorded. So,
Yeah, it's there for posterity.
That's
God help
right.
us all.
right. So great. All right. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thank you all. Truly. I mean that.
All right. So John's correct. There is another resolution. And that is a resolution of appreciation to Irene Weiser for her service to the town. I'll just let you know, I spoke to Irene this morning, and invited her to come, and she was going to come, and I was going to move these two resolutions to the beginning of the meeting. And then she said, oh, I better check my calendar to see if I have any meetings. And sorry, I have meetings. So she's got more meetings than I do. So
It's Irene Weiser. Of course she has a meeting.
I guess so. So I'll just read it because whereas Irene Weiser stepped down as Caroline councilperson at the beginning of 2021 after 9 years of service, therefore be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby extends its heartfelt appreciation to Irene for her dedicated service to the town of Caroline.
I would like to second that one.
Yes, seconded by John. Thank you. And I think, yeah, Irene's departure at the beginning of the year was sudden for us, and I think we have missed her, and but I think she's in a good place for her, and so but I really appreciated a lot of what she brought to this body, and so I don't think anybody can forget the rainbow flag and the flag resolution. That was a big thing. So, and I don't know if anybody has any other words they'd like to offer.
Most definitely.
Well, I mean,
So-
I think we had a lot of this orally at the end of last year, without doing actually a formal resolution, but the town has is so indebted to Irene on so many multiple fronts.
Yeah.
From just fierce protection of our ecological and natural resources, hard work to keep NYSEG rates down, not only in the town, but across the state.
Yep.
Tireless work on broadband, and numerous other internal projects and committees that Irene was on, oftentimes which were less than satisfying for her probably. We were just very, very fortunate to have her. And just as we're fortunate to have Catherine, who willingly stepped in to fill her shoes last January and has done an exceptional job. And we're
Yeah.
looking forward to doing this for Catherine. I probably won't be here, but in 9 more years.
Now
You know
we'll
you
you'll get
will.
roasted first.
You know you will.
I echo everything Tim said, and I would add to that her work on TCOG, and I may have this wrong, but I believe she might have been one of the people in the initial TCOG group. At least that's an impression I have. It may be factually untrue, but she certainly was a force in it. And that brought a lot of good to our community, particularly in shared services and starting to think about that topic. So yeah, she's also, so echoing something Catherine said about me, Irene is the reason I ended up here. And I remember the first campaign, her literally dragging me through town and this is how you got to do it. And I met a ton of people in that experience, which was really, really wonderful and rewarding. And Irene very much loved the process of just meeting our neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And that was a good thing I learned from her. And while I've missed her here and yet been thrilled to have Catherine here, I'm just glad that I got to serve with her.
We should have a resolution to make the town board bigger.
Always a possibility. You have a 7-member board. Yeah.
Well, I think my internet connection's getting unstable. No, just kidding.
Okay. I just want to recall that, Irene stepped on in the famous and fracking fight, fracking issue in Caroline. And she really, that was a really big issue in the town, discussed very comprehensively. And she stepped up to run at that time. And that was just a tremendous stride, a tremendous thing that she did. And she was always just so committed to those kinds of issues and you know, doing the right thing and thinking about the community. And yeah, I know she volunteers at the food pantry all the time. And so, yeah, yeah. And I remember, you know, I just think she was a master of just putting stuff together, just articulating ideas to get out to the public. And I remember this especially well she sent out a letter in advance of the first election that she ran about the fracking issue to households. And it was just really powerful and direct and clear. And it was something. It was really something. So, yeah, she will be missed. So I
Yeah, Mark.
actually, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to bother you guys again, but I would like to reiterate, it's pretty much just what I said for John. It's really hard to find people who cared so much and looked at all sides and were as thoughtful as though to were to all the citizens. So thank you very much for both of you.
Thanks so much, Bruce.
Thanks so much, Bruce. Nicely said. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right. So I had hoped that Irene would be here so that I could present her with a little something as well. And you know, I thought she might need some socks. But these are, if you can read this.
Wow.
I thought these socks were Irene all the way. This is your purchase today provides college prep classes for children in underserved communities. Each sale of this pair donates to National Urban League, strengthening their mission to provide economic empowerment, educational opportunities, and the guarantee of civil rights for the underserved in America. So I thought of Irene.
Hefty little sock right there.
Yeah.
Sock
Yeah.
does a lot.
It's a powerful sock. So great. All right. Great. Okay. Yeah. Did we ever vote on these resolutions?
I don't think we did.
No.
I'm going to call for a vote on both resolutions now because I don't want to have them not voted on, for Pete's sake. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, great. Those pass
I
unanimously.
have to abstain on my own.
Okay.
I should abstain on my own, right?
Okay. One
But
abstention.
I'm a yes on Irene's.
That's great. Stickler for process. There you go.
Yeah, you know.
Great.
Keeps us
All
out
right.
of trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
That's exactly right. So, all right, great. I think that covers it for tonight. Thanks so much, everybody. I think, and we will have our
Could-
end of year meeting on the 30th.
Could Cal ask for a brief executive session, just something that came to my attention? I'd just like to talk with you about as a board.
And
me.
do you want
It has
to
to,
know what the
it has to
matter-
it has to do with locks on the court.
that-
Sorry.
I don't know if that's an appropriate matter for executive session, frankly, Cal.
Okay.
So why don't we, I mean,
It came to my attention that they were planning on getting magnetic locks for their doors and how that plays into things. Because I know you've, if they're planning on doing something and when that's done, they're going to give you copies of the magnetic key so that you have address. And then they have their security concern that then they can see who comes when. So that their records of, they're almost done getting them digitized, and then they get turned over to the town clerk, and that they're planning on getting these magnetic swipe locks for their doors. So
Okay, I mean, I think this is a building and grounds issue. I don't know.
but you, as I remember from last week's meeting, you were, we were gonna have Ace come in and change locks sometimes next week, and Catherine was gonna try to be around, and I don't know,
That's
if I mean, if the court's
That's correct.
working on something, I just, this seems to be an ongoing confrontational issue, and I just don't want to,
And I want to put it to an end.
Yeah.
So. I mean, I don't really see, I think, I don't know.
well,
Any
I
other,
guess,
does anybody else want to offer a thought about this?
Well, we have an immediate situation regardless of what the court would like to speak with us about in the future, that we don't have security access to our facilities. And I continue to feel that for an awful lot of reasons, and we discovered those reasons clearly in the early fall, that we need to have keys to the facilities, to the offices, as all of the other towns have. And if and when the court wins this, I assume that it's unfortunate that the court didn't liaison with this concern, which did not happen. But I assume that if you're referring, Cal, to their possibility of winning a grant for a new security system, if and when they win the grant, that's certainly something that they then would need to coordinate with the supervisor to make sure that whatever is done in keeping with the key policy and with other town procedures. But for right now, at this very, very moment, we need the keys.
And it's it's not a heavy lift. It's a very minor issue.
And shouldn't be a controversial one. I don't understand why it's even controversial.
I don't know either, but it seems to me that it is. Just from, where things have gone, the history of, keys back and forth.
Well, we had a long meeting in September with the attorney, both for the court and for the town. And we went over state law and procedure. And that meeting made it quite clear that it was totally in keeping with state law for the town to hold a set of keys. And so regardless of how personally individuals might have felt about that the law is the law.
Yeah, I mean, I would just, so.
I thought if they were doing something, had something in the plans for security issues, if we tried to coordinate with that, and I don't know, it just seems like doing a little bit of not end run, but yes, there's been a lack of coordination of efforts.
I would dispute that, Cal, very strongly.
I certainly would dispute that.
Throughout the fall, Mark has worked
Okay,
very, very hard, almost every other week, to attempt to coordinate facility management with the court. So,
Yeah.
so
But they're
I
not
would really
not-
dispute that there's been a lack of an attempt at coordination.
I don't think on your part, but you're not getting any reciprocity, right?
No, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
It is a problem. And in the fall, it became a security problem when we had breakers go off in the building while people were working in it, and we had no access. So we had no power.
Yeah.
And when that happened, it would have been a real issue. So this has to be resolved.
Okay.
Great. So, yeah, let's follow up, Cal. We can talk about
Okay.
it. But I, yeah, let's follow up. I think that'd be good. Thanks for.
Yeah.
All right. So I'd like to adjourn the meeting. I really appreciate the meeting and think we got a lot of good things done. And again, I want to extend my gratitude to John and Irene for their wonderful service to the town. So,
Now, we're still gonna see John for one more meeting.
yeah,
That's right.
well, I won't write him off yet.
Like it or not.
Yeah, wear the hat.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
I'll see what I can do.
great.
At
Okay.
at that meeting, he will be allowed to make no seconds whatsoever.
Right, as should be tradition. Agreed.
Great.
Well, Thank you
Awesome.
again, everyone. I appreciate it.
Have expired.
Thanks, John. Hey, John, do you want this one? Motion to adjourn.
Sure.
Oh.
Okay.
Have a
All
good
in
night,
favor?
everybody.
Aye, okay.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye,
folks.
Barry.
Bye.
Yeah.